Good morning. It's Thursday, the 11th of June. Some of you may recall that when I was asked to write something about myself before I arrived in Grassington, I said that I liked various types of craft. I am far from an expert in any of them, but I enjoy them and find knitting and sewing relaxing. That is, until something goes wrong. Last year I made a quilt for my mum. Hand-sewn hexagons, each hexagon individually made and then sewn together over a long period of time. Most recently, my nieces asked if they could have one each as well. One in the shades of blue and the other one more in the shades of pink. So the process began again, definitely with no promised end date. Each hexagon required a paper inner and then a slightly larger material hexagon. 377 paper and 377 material hexagons were cut out. Then the material was folded around the paper and tacked, lightly sewn, into place. All 377 were then laid out to decide the final layout before being labelled, and then I began to sew the rows together. This is one of the ones that I've done so far. I've sewn a few rows, but even then, when all the rows are done, they all need sewing together before finishing the quilt off. At the start it seemed almost impossible with the size of the task ahead, and yet like so many things, once we take the first step we feel we're underway and we get some momentum to keep going. As I've sewed, I've reflected on how making this quilt can actually reflect our lives. So often there are lots of different stages, some clearly defined, some that morph into each other without realising. So often we can't see the final outcome as we go through life, or it seems so far away. As I've sewn the hexagons together, I've used lots of thread. Sometimes when I'm tired, my sewing isn't very neat, and you can see stitches where you really shouldn't. Other times the stitching is neat, and you have to look harder to see where the hexagons have been sewn together. What threads do we have going through our lives? Is our faith a thread that can be easily seen, or is it something that someone would have to look very closely to be able to detect? Does it join the various pieces of our life together? Or does it stand alone, waiting to be used? Maybe you don't sew at all, so find it hard to relate to this. But what do you enjoy doing? And how might this help you reflect on your faith and its importance in your life? Let us pray. Holy God, thank you for the gifts of creativity that you give us. Opportunities to take time out from the busyness of life to enjoy being creative. As we make, may we be reminded of you, our Creator, and all the beautiful things you have made for us to enjoy. May we also be reminded that you are the strong thread running through our lives, holding all things together, whether we easily recognise it or not. Amen.